feel healthy. Oh, I don't think I've ever felt healthy before. Oh, I wasn't expecting to cry either. Like, oh, I'm just... I'm such an ugly crier too. Hello, and welcome to my insanity, and I am so... Oh my god, I am so excited to be making this video because I think this will be one of my favourite videos to film, because after 10 years, after a decade, after, oh my god, after going to so many doctor's appointments and tests and being poked and pricked and being a medical guinea pig for pretty much 10 years, I am finally diagnosed. I am finally diagnosed, and not like one of these diagnoses that are like complete bull, like a legitimate diagnosis. And I cannot even put into words how I'm feeling. Like, I can't tell if I'm happy and relieved because I finally have a way to treat and manage what's been going on, or if I'm sad because like I have something wrong with me, or if I'm pissed off and frustrated because it took them 10 years to figure out something this simple. I don't know which one, but either way, I have lots of emotions right now, and my anxiety is a little bit like, because there's a lot of emotions that it doesn't know how to deal with. But either way, oh, I'm so excited. I'm finally diagnosed. I'm finally diagnosed. I'm finally there. Whatever. I'm gonna try and make sense of just everything, and I'm going to and this video is pretty much me taking you through, and whoever's willing to listen, through what the last 10 years has been like and what it's all resulted to. If you are someone who does get a bit squeamish when it comes to talking about like medical things, maybe don't watch the video. I also don't want anyone to think that I think my life is awful. Like, granted, it has its really bad days, which is what like my condition like made for me, but at the same time, like, I do understand that people do have it worse than me. I'm relieved that I now have a way to manage what's going on, and this also isn't me celebrating, yay, I'm sick, because the issue is I've always been sick. I've always had something wrong with me and they could never figure it out. And this video isn't like, yay, I'm sick. It's more like, yay, I have answers. I have a plan in place on how to treat it. I can now, oh my god, there's so many things I can now do. Janet, what's been going on? Okay, so as I said, for the last 10 years, the last decade, I was 12 when I got my first pain episode, and I'm now 22. So it's been a long time coming, doctors, and I finally got answers. So what's been happening? Well, if you know me personally and you knew me from my younger years, you would know that I have something called stabby pains. If you know me in real life and you know me in my older years, you would know them as pain episodes, because the issue with having something when you're 12 is you name it really childishly. So when you're an adult, you sound like an idiot when you're talking to an employer. So that's fun. But I have something called stabby pains or pain episodes. I'll probably switch between the two because I'm in two minds because of it. So what this is I get random pain episode attacks. So what that means is I will get a really sharp stabbing pain, accurately named young Janet. I'll get like a sharp stabby pain, if this is the bottom of my ribs, about there on my left side. And then that will start to like disperse to my whole entire torso, my left arm, left leg. Usually like my face and head and my right side is usually alright. It's usually my left side that's really bad. But these pain episodes have made me pass out before. They've made me vomit because I've been in so much pain. They've caused me to lose feeling my left arm and fingers and like left leg and toes. The attacks can last between, I think my shortest was about 4 hours and my longest was about 36. The way that this all starts is I get my first pain episode at a party when I was 12. I was almost collapsing at that point, so everyone called my dad to come pick me up. He came and picked me up. The next day I went to the doctor. Straight away, if you're like 11, 12 and you're telling them I'm having really bad stabbing pains in my stomachish area, they're immediately going to think appendicitis. So straight away they sent me off to get a stomach ultrasound. Get a stomach ultrasound, everything comes back negative. So I have nothing wrong with my stomach area. And then this is where everything starts. And my family's frustration with doctors in context to me starts, because my family hates when I go to doctors because they all think I'm a friggin' idiot. So stomach comes back normal. I then go through maybe like a couple months of them keeping on doing stomach ultrasounds because they just can't fathom why there's nothing wrong with my stomach. They send me for blood tests. I think one year I ended up having like 27 blood tests because of this. So they sent me for blood tests. They sent me for a bacteria test for stomach ulcers. That's what they did that specific year. After a couple months of this happening and then everything just coming back negative, saying that I was perfectly healthy, went back to the doctors and they're like, all right, let's talk about what's going on at home. And I was like, oh, I don't know, like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, oh, my parents got divorced, this is happening. And they were like, oh, your parents got divorced? Oh, well, in that case, Mum, Dad, she's acting out for your attention and is lying to you. And let me explain this the nicest way possible, and I hope that my mum and my dad don't get angry at me for saying this, but I was not really fazed for my parents' divorce. I guess I was always a very logical child. Like, I knew from the get-go my parents were getting divorced. That's nothing because of me. It's not because they don't love me. So I was like, oh, they just don't work well together. Like, couples just break up. And at the same time, like, being older now looking at that, I'm actually really thankful that my parents separated because they were trying to stay together for us kids' sake. But at home it was always tense because there was something that wasn't working, and as soon as they separated, I was actually able to have a decent relationship with my mum and a decent relationship with my dad. Like, in all honesty, my parents were better parents separate from each other. I don't hold any kind of resentment towards that one single bit. I think it's better that they did it, and I hope they don't get angry at me for saying that and putting that on the internet. But either way, it didn't bother me at all. So when the doctor said that, I was pretty much like, no, like, it doesn't, I don't care. So they went along that line for a bit. And then one time I was with my dad in Big W and I was having a pain episode and I passed out and fell and hit my head on a toaster that was on the ground and broke it to smithereens, and was lucky that I didn't, like, in all honesty, possibly kill myself by hitting my temple too hard. So after that, Dad was like, ah, back to the doctor. So we went back to the doctor and they were like, oh, okay then. Did another stomach ultrasound, did some more blood tests, came back and they're like, oh, we found nothing. And at this point my dad was like, check something else. It's not her stomach. She's got lots of other body parts. Like, her mother has endometriosis, why don't you check that? And they're always like, oh, but she's only 13. She wouldn't have anything wrong with her reproductive system yet. Wrong! 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 So they only focused on that area until, like, I was maybe like 19. So at 13, like, this is, so the doctors were like, oh, okay, so she's not lying. And I'm like, all right, thank you very much. So they're like, let's do a mental health check. As soon as they said mental health check, my 13-year-old self was like, oh crap, it's gonna come out, because I was that weird kid that used to research a lot. When something new popped up, I wanted to know everything about it, so I went on Google and I just started researching. I at one point researched depression, and I was like, oh, I kind of tick most of those boxes, but I never told anyone until I went to the doctor, and then the doctor did mental health check and they were like, oh dang, this girl's like really high up there. Get her to a child psychologist now! So I went to my first session with my child psychologist, and then for years they treated it as if I was having anxiety attacks, and the anxiety attacks were coming through as pain episodes. But they never really listened to me when I said, no, I know what an anxiety attack is, because I either hyperventilate and have all of the breathing, or I forget how to breathe and have none of the breathing. So it's either only breathing or no breathing. That's how my anxiety attacks work. And sometimes there are tears and stuff, so it's really fun. I would get anxiety attacks because I would be getting pain episodes, not I'd be getting pain episodes because I was getting anxiety attacks. And then my depression came into the mix too, because you're in pain. Of course you're gonna get depressed if you're in pain. Like, come on. So they treated it as a mental health issue instead of treating it as like it could be something medical. It's now something that they say is inside my head, which is the worst feeling. So go a couple years down the track, pain episodes are getting worse. No matter how hard I try with my psychologist and like do everything he tells me to do and do all the management plans, my depression and my anxiety is getting better, but my pain episodes are doing nothing. So then when I was 16, I didn't get them for like a year and a half. And we thought I was cured. So that kind of put into perspective and gave evidence to, oh, maybe the doctors are right. But what we look at now that I have answers is when I was 16, I got my first contraceptive implant. For those who don't know what a contraceptive implant is, if you're squeamish, turn away. So it is this little rod in my arm that you can see there. And it's just got a bunch of hormones in it, which tricks your body into like your period system as well, and stuff. So one of four things happen. So either your period stays exactly the same, your period just goes off the charts, like you have no idea when it's gonna hit or how long it's gonna hit. Third, you only get your period, like there is just period all day, every day, or you don't get your period. So for the first year and a half of having this implant on, I didn't get my period. And because I didn't get my period, I didn't get my pain episodes, which really should have been a really big indication to doctors as to what was wrong with me. But once again, you're only 16. There couldn't be anything wrong with your reproductive system. Idiots. Got the implant on, didn't get them for a while, it was great. Then my implant on started giving me periods again. It just decided, yeah, here's a period. And then my pain episodes started coming back. And then we started looking for more stuff. Eventually, I just kept complaining that they were like, all right, fine, maybe it's something inside you. And I was like, all right, great, finally you're listening. So I got endoscopy, the one where the camera goes down your throat and stops at your stomach, came back negative. They did more blood tests, came back negative. They did allergy tests, came back negative, but we did find out during that I am allergic to one of the proteins in milk, not the A1, A2, which means that I can't have any kind of milk, and I'm allergic to tomatoes, which gives me hives and eczema to the point where it cracks open and bleeds, which is really fun. Found out that I had those, but they were completely unrelated. So kept going to doctors, kept getting, I can't even understand how many stomach ultrasounds I got, and they just kept giving them to me, and it's like, you haven't found anything yet. And one doctor said to me, when was the last time you got one? I'm like, I don't know, about a year ago. They're like, something could have changed. And I legitimately sat there and I shouted, yeah, but it could also say static. It got to the point where I legitimately gave up trying to find an answer. Like I wholeheartedly gave up. I was just like, this is something that I'm just gonna have to live with, not knowing what it is, not knowing how to control it, not knowing how to tell employers about it, not knowing how to tell like any of my partners about it, finding it hard to tell friends. Like I was terrified to go out clubbing because what happens if I had one when I was like out clubbing with friends, and I had a pain episode, which has happened before, and like I think I had catatonic seizures one time because of it, which is terrifying. And like after years of doctors telling you that it's all in your head, you start to believe them. And like, I know for a fact it was really hard for me to be your sister at times. And I know it was really hard for me to be a daughter at times, because when doctors are telling you that it's all in your head, you start to believe them. And with a lot of the world around you telling you, oh, it's all in your head, if you just got better with holding your like anxiety attacks and your depression and stuff, even though like I thought I was doing really good. Like you put in so much work and you're like, oh, I'm doing so well with my mental health, and then like you get another pain episode and people are like, ah, no you're not. Like, oh, it's the worst feeling. So when you have a lot of the world around you being like, you're lying pretty much, and then you have someone like your sister or your brother or your mum or your dad being like, hey, it's okay, like it's gonna be alright, it's fine, like we're gonna figure it out, and they're trying to be really supportive and loving, all you know how to do is like attack. So I'd shout at them, or I'd scream at them, or I'd cry at them, and I'd just like tear them down when they're trying to be nice, because like I wasn't used to people being nice about it or believing me. So it was so hard. And after like years of just being told like you're crazy, you believe them, and oh, you just feel so worthless. I could have been such a good student. Like kids would at school would always be like, oh, she's always sick, but they never understood, because like I couldn't give answers. Like I couldn't go up to someone and be like, hey, I have these attacks because of this. It was just, hey, I have these attacks. Like I missed out on a lot of school, I missed out on a lot of uni. Like I would have to go to doctors and get all these medical certificates because like I couldn't study for a test because like I was in pain and I couldn't move, or I couldn't feel my limbs, or I was passing out, or I couldn't go to a test because I was passing out and I couldn't drive, or like I couldn't finish an assessment on time because I was passing out, or I couldn't feel my arm and my leg, and like it gets to you. Like it really gets to you. It got to second year uni and like I'd pretty much given up until this point. Got to second year uni and my boyfriend at the time, yeah, he was staying over, and I had a shower and I was walking around wrapped in a towel, so this was kind of embarrassing. He saw me up and then he saw me on the ground and he was like, what is she doing? What's she playing at? Because I kept saying, I don't want to go to uni. And he was like, no, you've got to go, you've got to hand in this assessment. And I was like, no, I just don't want to go to uni. But I hadn't told him about pain episodes yet, because I never wanted to be seen as someone that was damaged or broken, or that like couldn't function. I didn't want to be seen as weak, pretty much. So he sees me standing, sees me on the ground, freaks out, and then I had to explain to him, I just get these attacks. And he was like, whoa. I went to the doctor. The doctors that I go to are like this practice, and there's like 5 or 6 doctors in the one practice, and I went to all of these different ones within the practice because they all like speak to each other. There was a new one there who was like, this was like her first proper job, so I hadn't seen her before, she didn't know me. So I went in, explained what was going on. She's like, so you've had these episodes since you were 12, so when you were hitting puberty, and they feel like this and they're in this location. I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, shirt off, bend down, touch your toes. And I was like, okay. So did that, and she's like, all right, you can stand up. I know exactly what it is. And I'm standing there like, oh my God, 5 seconds and you know exactly what it is. What is it? She's like, you have moderate scoliosis. And I was like, I have moderate how now? She was like, you have spinal curvature. So anyone that doesn't know what scoliosis is when your spine is straight, mine is curved. So under my right shoulder blade, my spine kind of like curves in, and then it curves out a bit at the bottom as well. I have a Cobb curve, which is the scientific name apparently, of 33.3 degrees. And really in high school and primary school, I should have been in a back brace. But no doctor thought, hey, it could be something other than her stomach. She sent me to get an x-ray, got an x-ray, came back. She was like, you definitely have scoliosis. So I'm like, cool. I went home and then there was just nothing. It was like, know how to manage it, know what I should do next. It was just like, yeah, scoliosis, live with it, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay then. Mum found another doctor which could send me to a specialist that was quite far away and quite expensive. So like all this stuff really racks up price-wise, which is really fun. So thanks Mum and Dad for always paying for my medical bills. We went there. I eventually got to my musculoskeletal specialist. He sent me for an EOS scan. I then got MRIs to check that my nervous system was okay. I got an epilepsy test at one point just to make sure it wasn't epilepsy. All that stuff came back negative. There was nothing wrong with my nervous system. There was nothing wrong with my spine except for the fact that it was curved. So then he was like, all right, time to send you to the next person. So I went to a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. He sent me to get this test where you get a full body x-ray, you then get injected with some sort of radiation, you come back, you go away for 2 hours and then come back and then get another scan, so that where the radiation hits and lights up, it's where something's wrong. So I got lit up a bit, so it just meant that I have arthritis at the top of the bottom of my spinal curve, and I've got some bone inflammation and muscle inflammation, which is all very typical of someone with scoliosis. I was pretty much told the only way to fix it is to exercise and eat healthy. So I then started going to my personal trainer, who was so lovely, so great, so understanding of my pain episodes, even though I hardly gave him any information as to what was going on, except for I've got scoliosis which causes these pain episodes, they think. Like there was never a 100% this is what's causing it. It was always like it could answer it, but we're not sure. So like I worked with the fact that this was what was wrong. I went down for like a year or two of exercising, eating healthy, like, but nothing changed. Like, and that's where my weight really fluctuated. So some weeks I would be like 65 kilos and be like fit, and it was great, and I had a lot of confidence because I could exercise so much and I was so healthy in comparison to like how much I have been in the past. But then I would get a pain episode and it would just be like more confirmation that I didn't have an answer. So I would just eat whatever I wanted because I was like, well, it doesn't even matter. And then I'd get back up to like 72, 75, and then I'd exercise it all off. And then it was just one to the other, to the other, to the other. And it was just always fluctuating because I'd be doing so good. And then I'd get a pain episode and I'd be like, what's the point? Went down that path for a while, and then my episodes just kept getting worse. Like it didn't matter what I did, they were just always getting worse. About like a year and a half ago, I got another symptom with the pain episodes, and sorry if you're squeamish, but I started to pass blood when I pooped. And as soon as I told my mum, she was like, off to the gastroenterologist. So I went there and they were like, oh yeah, these pain episodes don't sound like anything like scoliosis. I'm like, all right, excellent, back to square one. So he was like, we'll do an emergency colonoscopy because we have to make sure it's not bowel cancer. I think I've been told like 5 different times that they have to look for cancer because it's most likely cancer, and each time it's come back negative. And I got that done, and he was trying to be really nice when I was still dosed because they had to sedate me. And me being dosed is, all bets are off pretty much. So he came up to be really nice to me and tell me that they found nothing and that I was perfectly healthy. And after years of being told that you're perfectly healthy and it's all in your head, you can't help but cry. Like I cried for a solid 3 days because I was so frustrated and sick of being told you're perfectly healthy, because it's like, if I'm perfectly healthy, why am I having these episodes? Like it's not that hard. So that all came back negative, which was so much fun. And then I went back to the doctor because I was like, I want to see a gynecologist. And the doctor looked at me and she was like, I'm not going to send you to a gynecologist. I'm going to send you to a pain management specialist. And what this really means is they don't know what it is. They've given up trying to figure out what it is. And the doctors just gave up all hope. They just gave up on me. And like, I cried even more for that. But got to the point where my mum was like, look, they've checked pretty much everything except for the one thing where we have a family medical history. And my mum and my dad have been screaming at the doctors for years, hey, Janet's mum has severe endometriosis to the point where her uterus almost tore in half. Like, check her reproductive system. And they're always like, no, she's too young for that. She's too young to have anything wrong with her uterus or her ovaries or her vagina. She's too young. Well, guess what, doctors? I wasn't! So I went to a gynecologist. So I went in, saw him, was really awkward at first, did my whole awkward thing. So within 5 minutes of being there, he was like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so your uterus is retroverted. So instead of it pointing the way it's supposed to, it just decided to skip that class and goes the other way. Great. He gave me a quick little ultrasound and he's like, oh, I see 2 cysts on that ovary. Your period's all weird, blah, 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 blah. All right, quick, I'm gonna get you to go to in-depth pelvic ultrasound, which like, that wasn't fun, but either way, I got my results today. I got my results. I have endometriosis, I have adenomyosis. I don't know if I'm saying those things right, but I have results. I have an answer. I have an answer. I have 2 answers really, but I have answers. So, I got my results today and I came back positive on both of these things. I have moderate endometriosis. So if you don't know what that is when instead of your period thinking, oh, I'm gonna go out the right way, through the cervix, through the vagina, it thinks, you know what, screw this tunnel, I'm gonna make my own. It's when the period blood tunnels through the uterus itself and sits in the pelvic cavity just to like fester. And then because my uterus is apparently very thick and rigid and stubborn, which is very much like my personality. And there's slight evidence. They think that I have adenomyosis, which, like, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but either way, it's where instead of it tunneling through like endo, it tunnels into and sits in the walls of the uterus. So adeno, they like go hand in hand sometimes. So, oh, why is this so good? Why is this so great? Well, downside is it's incurable. But that doesn't bother me because it could have been something so much worse. What it means is that I have to go for a little bit of keyhole surgery, so a laparoscopy and hysterectomy. I think I'm saying that wrong. I'm most definitely sure that I'm saying that wrong. Pretty much they're going into my uterus, cutting out all the bad stuff, having a good look, and then they're gonna stop my period altogether. So that no blood, no pain episodes, no period, like it makes so much sense. So that means that after maybe 2 months, I'm not gonna get pain episodes anymore. I'm not gonna be in pain. I'm not gonna have to worry about my next attack or passing out or like embarrassing myself. I can travel, I can, oh my god. I'm gonna feel healthy. Oh, I don't think I've ever felt healthy before. Oh, I wasn't expecting to cry either. Like, oh, I'm just... I'm such an ugly crier too. But it means that I'm not gonna have these episodes anymore. Oh my god. I don't know what it means for like kids down the line, but in all honesty, I don't care. Like, I'm 22, I'll figure it out, I'll adopt, I'll foster, like, there's other options if it affects that, but just not having to be in pain. It's just a really good feeling, and I'm so relieved and angry, but like sad, and I just don't know how to feel. Oh my goodness. So, keep it together, Janet. Oh my god. Alright, fix yourself up. Oh, my eyes are so red. Thank goodness my mascara is waterproof, eh? So, yeah, so that means that I officially have a diagnosis after 10 years, which really shouldn't have been 10 years if they listened to my family when we said we have a medical history of this thing. Oh, but of course, she's too young to have anything wrong with her reproductive system, doesn't she? But, oh, yeah. But, either way, I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be making this video finally, because I can look back at this later when like I've gotten it all fixed or like managed or whatever. But this isn't me trying to give a sap story. This isn't me trying to be like, yeah, I'm sick. This is me being like, I finally have answers. And it's really nice. Like, it's the best feeling to have answers. And it sucks, but I'm not the only person in this situation. I don't just mean endometriosis or adenomyosis. I also mean just undiagnosed disorders in general. Not going to be the first or the last person to have an undiagnosed disorder. And unfortunately, it's heartbreaking when you have to be that person with something wrong with them and you keep getting told you're healthy. I can't think of a worse term than being told you're perfectly healthy, because if I'm perfectly healthy, why is this happening to me? Like, this shouldn't be happening to me if I was healthy, so therefore I'm unhealthy, therefore stop telling me that I'm healthy. Like, oh, so if you're one of those people that like has an undiagnosed disorder, I feel ya. Like, I in all honesty know exactly how it feels to be told time and time again there's nothing wrong with you, and it's the worst feeling, but you owe it to yourself to keep trying. Like, you will keep getting knocked back, but eventually you're gonna get that answer, and it's better to get that answer now than later now when it's easier to fix because you don't want to give it more time to get worse, and you just owe it to yourself to be healthy. Like, it's hard, but just keep pushing yourself. And if you're someone who has a loved one who has an undiagnosed disorder and you have to watch them break down every time they're told they're perfectly healthy, I've been asked this question before and it sucks, but you want to know what you can say to them to make them feel better. And in all honesty, there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say, there's nothing you can do, because the only thing that's going to make them feel better is when they're finally told what's wrong with them, when they're finally given an answer, because by having an answer, you have a way to manage it or cure it. And that's just a fact. But that doesn't mean that you can't at least support them. So if you know that they have certain comfort things, do those. If they just need support, go on a doctor's appointments. You don't have to be in the room, but maybe just sit with them while they're waiting, or sit outside and drive them and just make them feel like it's not the end of the world. Make them feel like they're not crazy, because they're not crazy. But if you sat through this whole video, thank you so much. Like, I don't expect a lot of people to watch this video, but if you do, like, thank you so much, because this has been 10 years in the making, like, legitimately, and I wanted to share this with anyone who's willing to listen. So if you're willing to listen, thank you so much. I will see you next video when I'm crying a lot less and when I'm frustrated a lot less. But enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!